steer today's conversation with clarity and fairness, I'm honored to introduce our moderator, Brian Callanan. Brian, over to you.
Thank you, Rachel, and it's great to see so many people here, and a big thanks to Youngstown Cultural Arts Center for hosting this event too. Wanted to welcome everybody to this mayoral candidate forum. I'm Brian Callanan. I'm a member of the chamber through my nonprofit work with Our Lady of Guadalupe and Loop the Loop. I'm also a public affairs host on the Seattle channel, which is the city's TV station. I actually hosted a debate with these two candidates just a few weeks ago. It's good to see you again. Looking forward to this discussion. I wanted to make sure I let you know I'm not here on behalf of the Seattle channel or the city of Seattle. Chamber leadership asked me to moderate this debate, and I was very glad to volunteer to do it. I wanted to talk about a few ground rules for today. The candidates will have 2 minutes to make an opening statement and then a closing statement. I did a coin flip just a short while ago, Mr. Harrell, with Katie, because she was here first. And as it turns out, she's going to be speaking first. You're going to get the last word and the closing statements there. The candidates will also have 2 minutes to respond to the different questions that I'm going to ask. Rebuttals, where the candidates are asking for those, will be 30 seconds long. I'd like to try to limit those to 3 apiece. We'll see how that goes. I know this can be a fluid event. The candidates did receive these questions to prepare, so we're very much looking forward to their answers. We also have a lightning round of more lighthearted questions towards the end here that the chamber did not send their way, so we're looking forward to those answers too, 30 seconds apiece. Claire Seitz, the chamber's marketing manager. Where are you, Claire? She's right over there. She's going to be keeping time in the front here with these different placards. Can you hold those up, Claire, so that candidates know? I think they've seen these before. 30 seconds, and then 15, and then it's time to wrap up with the red, and she will make sure that we see those here. Candidates, I will say you don't have to take up the entire 2 minutes or 30 seconds. If your answer happens to be shorter, that's fine. We have carefully planned out our timing for today, but it's always good to have some breathing room. Now, with regard to these questions, they were developed by the Chamber's Board of Directors and the Government Advocacy Committee. These questions were created using feedback from Chamber membership during its program of work throughout the year, specifically in the Chamber's membership survey. The Chamber supports and takes input from more than 320 businesses from across the peninsula. With that, I wanted to bring up our candidates. Mayor Bruce Harrell, could you come on up here? He's the incumbent, a former city council member as well. Let's give him a round of applause for being here. Right there, if you would. And his challenger is Katie Wilson, a first-time candidate who's the founder of the transit advocacy group, the Transit Riders Union. A round of applause for Katie as well. I'm going to identify the candidates as Ms. Wilson and Mr. Harrell today. And I have to say that was very nice work on the applause there, but I want you to hold off on doing that again until the end of our program here so we can have a very civil and focused debate, please, if that makes sense to you. All right, let's go with some opening statements here. Katie Wilson, if you could start, 2 minutes if you could.
Okay, hi everyone. It is wonderful to be here with all of you this afternoon. Thank you so much for coming and for the invitation. So I'm running for mayor because I love this city. And I want it to be a place where my daughter, now 2 years old, can grow up and build a life if she wants to. Right now, though, that reality feels increasingly out of reach for so many of us, as basic costs are climbing from rent to childcare to groceries. I've spent the last 14 years as a coalition builder and a community organizer, leading campaigns to win transformative victories that benefit working people across our region every single day. Higher minimum wages, stronger renter protections, progressive revenue to fund the public goods and services that we all depend on, better and more affordable public transit. Seattle's a great city, but we have a lot of difficult problems to solve. Homelessness, public safety, affordability. We can solve these problems, but not without new leadership in the mayor's office. After 7 months of campaigning, I feel profoundly hopeful for the future of our city, because I know that my vision for Seattle is not just my vision. It's a vision that is shared by so many people in so many neighborhoods around this city. It's our vision. And when I reflect on why I received 51% of the vote in the primary, that is why. I would be honored to receive your vote for the next mayor of Seattle. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bruce Harrell, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. And I'm very welcome to be here at Youngstown Cultural Arts Center. I still thought I was coming in Cooper Elementary School when I walked in here. That dates me a little bit. And the fact of the matter is I entered public service on a very simple mission. That was just to solve problems. I actually come from a very humble background. I think many of you know my mother was in a concentration camp during World War II as a Japanese American, and my father escaped the Jim Crow segregated South to come here to Seattle to simply have a better life. With respect to small businesses, both sides of my family, they own small businesses. And one reason why I've been absolutely bullish about supporting small businesses in any way that I can, because I continue to think that's a great pathway for families to hire from communities to pursue their dreams. I went to Seattle Public Schools here and then the University of Washington on a football scholarship and then to law school and learned how to technically assist small businesses to incorporate them and help them with strategic planning. We have invested over $1 billion in affordable housing in a very fast-growing city, one of the fourth fastest-growing cities in this country. In my second term, we will continue to invest $1 billion, and we will continue to invest in aggressive homelessness strategies. The fact is that a lot of people are slipping through the cracks, and we have to be very honest and transparent about that. Hopefully, with the levy passing on November, we will also have a situation where every child who graduates from public school can go to college for 2 years for free. And that started here in West Seattle, by the way. Or they can have some great jobs in the maritime or port or industry communities as well. We are now rebuilding our police department, and I'm sure that will come out in the questions. But I will tell you that experience will matter for the next 4 years. I'll close with that, and I look forward to a healthy and fun debate. Brian, I look forward to your questions.
All right, let's get it happening here. Our first question, let's start with you, Mr. Harrell, if I could. According to the city's Office of Economic Development, small businesses make up about 95% of Seattle companies. Especially with the current climate of fiscal strain, what policies will you promote to support small businesses, especially for at-risk communities like women, BIPOC, and LGBTQIA+ owned businesses?
Well, the work we've done, hopefully, we should be very proud of. On November 1st, 2023, I issued an executive order coming up pretty strong on this issue. And what we first looked at was our $900 million procurement dollars that the city of Seattle uses. And the executive order looked at the city's existing practice, which was sort of fragmented, and we centralized it through our FAS group, Finance and Administrative Services group. We gave them the tools to do the outreach, and I'm very proud that the Rainier Valley Community Development Fund is here. I see that. I'll probably refer to them when we talk about light rail issues. But what we looked at is we looked at what the state was doing, what the county's doing. We looked at the disparity study, and I'm very proud to say that in programs like the Capital Access Program, where we leveraged money from JP Morgan Chase, $20 million to give to businesses to actually have access to program. In our Liberty Project, where we are allowing small businesses to use the resources from Seattle University and the University of Washington and Small Chamber of Commerce known as Tabor 100, and through the Community Business Ownership Fund, where we are actually allowing businesses to buy their lease, buy their property, buy the commercial space. And one of the programs I mentioned, we've had over 300 businesses take advantage of this. I'm very proud to say, looking at the disparity study, that under my administration, the city has broken all records in terms of procurements. We're doing better than the country in terms of their programs, their federal programs, doing better than the state, doing better than the University of Washington. So we have developed programs for our Office of Economic Development. You see that we quadrupled the storefront repair fund. That's real dollars when you have your window broken or something. So I think we've led the way on what small business procurement could look like, and will continue to do so.
Thank you very much. Katie Wilson, to you, this question about what policies would you promote to support small businesses, especially for at-risk communities, please.
Yeah, this is a great question. And over the last 7 months of my campaign, I've been having a lot of conversations with small business owners in neighborhoods across the city. I've held several small business roundtables with many people. It's great to see Alyssa and Matt here. The struggle is real, right? Costs for small businesses are up across the board. There's persistent problems of public safety and homelessness that are impacting business operations often. And there are a lot of things that I think the city can do better. So first, I think it's important to recognize the connection between housing affordability and some of the struggles that small businesses are facing. I remember talking to one small business owner who has a number of locations with about 50 employees total, and he said, I don't think one of my workers has a totally stable housing situation. So when people can't afford to live in the city where they work and are having to commute in from a long way away, it really leads to struggles with workforce hiring and retention. So everything that we need to do to tackle that housing affordability crisis. Definitely support the Seattle Restore program, which has been helping to get pop-ups and small business entrepreneurs into vacant commercial space around the city. I've been talking with a lot of business owners who've participated in that program, and there's definitely room for improvement there, right? It's like a 3-month window, which is very short. So there's been a few small business owners who've been very successful launching from that program, but many more that haven't. And so I think it's very important not to just focus on the metric of how many people are we shoving through a program, but really taking their feedback, seeing what's working, and improving that program so it's providing people the support they need for their business to be successful. There's a lot I think the city can do to make it easier to start and expand a small business. As mayor, I will commit to working with BIAs and neighborhood chambers around the city on public safety and neighborhood-specific strategies to support small businesses. And finally, I know I don't have all the answers, and so I am very committed to continuing this process of reaching out, organizing, talking with small business owners, and coming up with that plan together, right? Because all of the expertise and passion around the city, we need to make use of that.
Thank you very much for that. Another business question here. I'm thinking about a few tax measures that are on the ballot. The mayor mentioned the Families Education Preschool and Promise Levy, property tax there. Seattle Shield, it's a sales tax hike on the ballot as well. I just wanted to make sure we asked this question. Seattle residents and businesses are experiencing serious financial strain. How would you optimize current city revenues before imposing additional taxes? Katie, I'd like to start with you on that one, please.
Yeah, sure. First I'll just say that, as you probably know, we have a very regressive tax system in our state. And this is one of the reasons I'm very proud of my work designing and passing the Jumpstart payroll expense tax that was passed in 2020, has allowed our current mayor to balance the budget for the last 4 years. And if you think about the ways we normally rely on sales tax and property tax, which tend to be very regressive, it's so important that we have had that progressive source that has not added to that burden for low and middle income households and small businesses. I think that we need to spend our city revenue as effectively and efficiently as possible. And that means that we do need to take a hard look at the city budget, all the programs that we're funding. And if there are programs that were maybe well-intentioned when they were first implemented but aren't actually producing results, we do have to be willing to stop funding them. And that's not something that I'm sure we've really been doing. We've seen a lot of new spending on new programs in recent budgets. In a way, and often on good things, but often in a way that kicks the can down the road on actually having a sustainable budget, right? We have a structural budget shortfall, which is continuing year after year with one-time fixes. And I guess to give an example of a way that we haven't used revenue effectively, I hope everyone reads the ProPublica investigation that came out just in the past week or so, showing that the city paid a lot of money for hotel-based shelter beds. For almost a year, was not filling those rooms. So we were paying, $4,200 per room per month, and actually intentionally not putting people in that space. So we have to look at how we're designing these programs and making sure that when we're asking people to contribute their money to the common good, that we're actually using that money effectively.
Thank you very much. Mayor Harrell, Bruce Harrell, the question was, how would you optimize current city revenues before imposing additional taxes?
Sure, let me answer that question directly. And the ProPublica article should clearly indicate we were winding down the problem. So I've owned a business, a for-profit business. I've advised many hundreds of businesses on how to succeed, how to make money. The question is efficiencies in government. So let me ask you the question, respond to the question directly. We have to look at where we are wasting money, simply put. So I'm going to use you as an example that if I have my department heads, and you remember I have over 40 department heads, the first thing I had to do, realizing we had a $240 million deficit, is I have to freeze your travel. I have to freeze your hiring freeze. I have to make sure there's no training that's not essential that you have to stop. Number one. I have to have you look at your own budget, because I have 40 different budgets, if you will. And I have to say, for example, how efficient can you be? I got to drive out waste. Number one. Number two, I'll ask a question like, how many of you, department heads, SDOT, City Light, SPU, SDCI, OPCD, how many of you do outreach? Almost every hand would go up. So I would ask the question, how can we make outreach more efficient? Do I need the same level of outreach or the quality of outreach going out and talking to people about certain projects, period? How do we quantify or qualify that to be efficient? I asked the questions on the permit process. I hired Brick Bellman, who was a former CEO of Soundtrans, that's a $50 billion organization, to be my department head right now in SDCI on the permit process. Why? Because SDOT, you have a permit process, City Light, OPCD, Department of Neighborhoods, we go through the permit process and we're making more efficient. You talk about the Cortera housing project where we have 800 units, 200 of which will be income restricted. We cut down the red tape by 2 years, saving time is money. So and I have a master's degree in organizational design improvement. I know systems thinking. The way cities will have to operate in the near future to ease the cost burden on you as small businesses, and we have to shrink government to be more efficient. And that's what we're doing. Could I do all of that in 3.5 years? Of course not. This is an $8.5 billion budget we're talking about.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Appreciate it. The Department of Construction and Inspections, if you're missing out on some of the acronyms here, I know there's going to be a few today. Thank you. I wanted to make sure I continued with another question that's very specific to West Seattle here. There's a significant homeless population in West Seattle, but we have a severe lack of access to services and shelter, to the point of creating public safety concerns for many local businesses and residents. What is your plan for addressing these issues and providing a city-owned enhanced shelter in West Seattle, or direct funding support and technical assistance for nonprofit programs to improve the quality of services? A lot packed in there. Mr. Harrell, I'd like you to take a crack at that first.
Sure. First of all, I need to level set that in our country, again, 18%, there's been a rise in 18% of our country in homelessness. That's nearly 1 million people. There's a rise in homelessness in the state, the county, and the city. We are a wealthy city, and unfortunately, people are slipping through the cracks. I've been trying to do this work for 16 years as an elected official, and even before that, I incorporated this group, the Rainier Valley Community Development, because people had the impacts on the light rail who could have been homeless. And so I resent the fact that I'm getting blamed for all this. The fact of the matter is that 85% of the tiny homes in the entire county are in Seattle. The fact of the matter is that 63% of the shelters in the entire county are in Seattle. The fact is that 70% of the people that are homeless did not become unsheltered in Seattle. So what are we going to do about it? What we have to do is continue with a regional approach, and I have to have them put money in the pot. I'm putting in the city $120 million in. The county puts in 80. But the other cities, Auburn, Kent, and all these mayors endorsed my reelection, so I'm not denigrating them. That's what they signed up for. The city of Seattle cut a bad deal. And I'm unwinding that deal as we speak, because literally I will negotiate and say I will pay for good services in Tukwila, as an example, if there's access to transit, access to services, but the city of Seattle cannot carry this burden alone. And I will take the criticism on where we fall short. My wife used to be the CEO of United Way. We've been in this space a while. And to me, it's pretty offensive when people like myself, and many of you, by the way, have been putting in the work to shelter our unsheltered neighbors. This is a tough crisis we're all in. I'm going to continue to push for a regional solution, or we will terminate that. And we'll do it ourselves and turn that into a policy-making board. But our current county system is not working, and it's incumbent upon me to make sure it does work.
Thank you very much. Ms. Wilson, the question was a little bit about addressing the issues of homelessness and public safety concerns here in West Seattle, also potentially providing a city-owned enhanced shelter in West Seattle, or directing funding support and technical assistance for nonprofit programs to improve the quality of services here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the question. I'll try to address the overall question and then the West Seattle specific part of it as well. So I think we can all look around and see that what we're doing right now is not working. And, I heard the mayor talk about how homelessness nationally and in our state have been rising, and that is absolutely true. But it is also true that Seattle has been called a national outlier by the Brookings Institute in our levels of unsheltered homelessness. This is compared to other blue cities, other progressive cities. We actually have more people unsheltered in the Seattle area by number than New York City. That is shocking. And we have actually lost shelter capacity every single year that the current mayor has been in office. We have 2 people unsheltered in our city for every 1 shelter bed. So we desperately need to expand emergency housing and shelter across the city. And honestly, that is going to be my #1 priority as mayor. Now, I know that's not enough, right? A lot of people need not just a roof over their head, but they need services, they need treatment. So we need to make sure that we are also providing that so that people can be successful there. But we desperately need to address this crisis of homelessness. We cannot have another 4 years where every single year there are more people sleeping unsheltered on the street. And the current policy is just to move people around. We had a very good article in the Seattle Times in the last few days that demonstrated that conclusively, that we're not providing meaningful offers of shelter or support. So in terms of West Seattle in particular, I was talking to Keith, who I just learned operates what is apparently the only shelter in West Seattle. That is shocking. So I have a new commitment, which is to work with you all to make sure that we can open up more enhanced shelter in West Seattle, because we absolutely need that, 15 seconds. I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. If anyone wants a rebuttal throughout here, make sure you throw up a sign and let me know. I know there's some comments about previous policy there. Is there something you wanted to say, Mr. Harrell, or should we move on?
I'd like to stick on the topic a little bit.
Please.
I don't take offense to anything that anyone says when you're trying to do this work. We did do, the King County Regional Homelessness Authority did do a request for a proposal for looking at city-owned sites that are appropriate for shelter here. We didn't get any responses from West Seattle. We could not identify any sites other than the one we had. It's a request for properties. We had 3 submissions, but none were here in West Seattle. We've offered I'll refer to District 1, to put it in City Council parlance, that we had over 1,137 offers for service this year. 231 were accepted. We had 4,000 site cleanings, actually 3,948. We had 865 encampment resolutions. Now, the reason I share that statistic with you, because under my administration, we just open it up. We open up our books. Where we fall short, we say we fall short, we're going to do better. So this is hard work. And if you look at Los Angeles, they have 47,000 people unhoused. You look at Portland, 6,300 people unhoused. So we will open up our books, we will work together and solve this problem.
Thank you. Any other rebuttals there? I'm going to move on here. I think I might pick up the pace to make it a minute and a half for the question answers if we could here. I think that'll help move things along. Let me ask, if I could, this next question. We have an issue with access to affordable housing. This was brought up as well as lack of access to drug treatment and behavioral health support. What is your plan for strengthening our regional partnerships to address these intersecting issues and how they contribute to our homelessness crisis? Ms. Wilson, with you.
Yeah, this is so important, and it goes to what I was saying before about how we need to make sure that that provision of housing and shelter is also connected in the right way with the services, the case management, the drug treatment that some people need in order to be successful there. And this is something that I've been hearing as I'm talking to housing providers, service providers around the city, is that too often, for example, you get someone into permanent supportive housing, and I know there's a big controversy going on right now kind of nationally around the housing first model, which is very successful when it's done right? When it's not housing only, when you're getting someone inside, but then you really do have that follow through. But too often due to lack of resources or lack of coordination, we don't have that. And so we're kind of putting people in buildings, but not providing that support, that community, that people need. So we need to get that right, and that is going to be absolutely a collaboration between the city, the county, which houses public health, the state, and within Seattle and King County, all of the providers. And so the city has a very important convening role to play to make sure that we are creating those realistic pathways for people from the situation that they're in to housing or shelter with support and services. So I'm absolutely committed to making those systems work better, because when we have what we have now, which is a system of dead ends, that also means that we're not spending our resources effectively.
Thank you. Mr. Harrell, the question was about affordable housing, a lack of access to drug treatment and behavioral health support, the idea of trying to work on these issues, maybe with some of the regional partnerships you mentioned, and how they intersect and how they contribute to our homelessness crisis.
Sure. So the issue is the intersectionality between a public health crisis with fentanyl and opioid addiction and methamphetamine issues and a public safety approach. I control the police department. I don't control the health department. But what we've done is looking at how serious this issue is. Number one is we allowed our first responders, for example, to administer buprenorphine. First city in the country to do that. Fentanyl deaths went down nearly 30%. One of the challenges we had is if we just arrest somebody, they spin in and out of jail, we're not helping them. Now, make no mistake about this. We will arrest criminals doing criminal conduct. Full stop. If you look at what we did at 12th and Jackson, 14 of the most prolific drug dealers, we seized enough drugs, $3 million worth of drugs, that would kill everyone in Seattle twice. We will do that. But we drafted a best practice fentanyl bill or a drug bill as well. And the challenge we had is we didn't have anywhere to take these people to get treatment, period. And so what we have now is we have crisis care centers coming online. The one on where the old polyclinic was in the Capitol Hill, I put restrictions on there for me to support it. And they have to have good neighbor agreement. They have to make sure that the area is clean and people are getting help and follow-up treatment. We now have the Orca Center and the Star Center downtown, and we have security around there to make sure people are getting help. So the challenge we had is we didn't have anywhere to take them, but now we are building those systems as we speak. And make no mistake about it, some of these people struggling are people I grew up with. So it's personal for me as a person who's been around here for a while.
Thank you very much. I'm moving on to our next question, also about public safety, a top priority for many voters. However, it's been recently reported that the Seattle Police Department may be undermining the ability of the CARE department, that's the Community Assistive Response and Engagement. Thank you, the CARE department, to respond to provide an effective alternative to 911 response there. How would you, as mayor, improve the dynamics between these departments to make sure Seattle gets the effective and comprehensive public safety response that we need? Mr. Harrell, let me start with you.
Sure. First of all, the CARE department and the police chief, they have the same boss. Believe it or not, it's not me. It's my chief public safety officer, Natalie Walton Anderson, who is a former U.S. attorney and prosecuting attorney and city attorney. And they actually get along well. In my administration, I encourage people to have an open dialogue. What's working? What's not working? I'll put them in a room and say, hey, SDOT and City Light, can you work together to accelerate the permit process? And perhaps they will disagree because in the old system, they would have their own turfs. In my One Seattle model, it's okay to disagree. And you could do interviews. I don't say Chief Barton, who I hired, by the way, not even for that job. She came in for another job because she's a star. I put her in charge of CARE as we created. We created it from scratch, but we have to realize the work that they are doing, they're taking away a condition of employment for the police officers. And police officers have been doing that work for decades and decades and decades. You think they're just going to relinquish it just like that. But now you'll see probably in the next few weeks that we worked it out. So when my chiefs are sort of protecting their turf, I have to remind them, under One Seattle, it's all about you, the people, the public, the small businesses. It's not about us. It's never been about us. So that open criticism we will embrace, we'll use it to get better, and I'm proud to say that we've put money in the budget to double the CARE department. And we'll have more park rangers and more liaisons and more mid-ambassadors and more police officers. We're getting 10 applications a day. That's the work we're doing, and I have to remind you, I've had a $642 million budget deficit since I've been in office, by the way.
Okay, I'm sure we're going to come back to that in just a little bit. Ms. Wilson, the question was about CARE and the police department, how they are working together, or perhaps not as it stands right now, improving that dynamic and making sure that Seattle gets an effective and comprehensive public safety response.
Yeah, I mean, this is a great question. I hope everyone takes the time to read the Seattle Times article about this. It's very disturbing and frankly symptomatic of the kind of dysfunction that appears to be the norm within City Hall right now. So the commitment to standing up an alternative response was made during the 2020 protests, and it eventually happened. And I'm very supportive of expanding that, right? This is key to making sure that we have the right type of responders going to crisis calls, and ideally they're able to respond independently. But it's very, very disturbing to learn that the CARE team has not been allowed to exercise its full jurisdiction as allowed under the current MOU. And I guess the question that I feel we should be asking is, why did this have to come out as kind of a public scandal in the paper? What is the breakdown in communication that is happening within City Hall? Like, you would think that the CARE team would have been making their concerns known to the mayor's office, and this is something that could have been worked on. So it's very disturbing to me that this had to kind of become a public matter in order for something to actually be done about it. Yeah, I guess I'll stop.
Okay, I saw that look on your face, Mr. Harrell. How about a 30-second rebuttal if you can, and we'll see where this goes.
I hire empowered, smart people. It's no scandal when they disagree. The fact is, crime, read the Danny Westnate article on 712, homicides down 41%, shootings down 29%, robbery down 15%, violent crime down 12%. But I'm not satisfied with that. Neither should my chief of police, neither should my care chief. They are friends. That is not a scandal. That is a healthy disagreement on how we move forward. Period. Full stop.
All right, we'll leave it be at that. Is there anything you wanted to rebut?
Well, I mean, I think it's just clear, and from things that I've heard, this is a problem that's been going on for a long time. And so what I'm questioning is why it takes this coming out in a public news story to be addressed.
Okay, I feel like we can move on from this question because it's going to be, it sounds like we're going to see some movement on it perhaps in the next couple of weeks here. We'll see. Let's move on to our next question, please. We have seen National Guard troops activated by the Trump administration in other cities in the U.S. How exactly would Seattle respond with you as mayor? And Ms. Wilson, let me start with you.
Sure. So first of all, we stand up for our values here, and we stand united. And I think this is very important because we know that Trump picks on the weak. And so the more that we can show that we are united, that the city is working with the county, is working with the state, the mayor's office is working with the city attorney's office, with the AG's office, and we are all united, and also united within Seattle, right? So I think it's very important for the city to be working closely with community organizations around the city, other stakeholders, businesses, with the UW, like all the institutions that are potentially the target in various ways of the Trump administration. When we show that we're united, we become a less attractive target. We also need to learn from other cities, right? We need to learn from the other cities that have had Trump send federal troops in. We need to learn how they fought this in the courts, and we absolutely, obviously, need to be fighting this in the courts. And it also means that we need to be smart and we need to be prepared. So I was concerned by the surveillance legislation that the mayor proposed and the council passed recently. This is legislation that is massively expanding CCTV cameras around the city, and that was opposed by immigrants' rights groups and by legislators who are concerned because they know that this technology has not been meaningfully secured, right? This data is not on a server in City Hall. It's in the cloud in other states that don't have the same protections that we do. So we need to protect people. I was also concerned by a recent report that SPD is responding to ICE records requests much faster than it's responding to records requests from journalists. So we need to get our own house in order. And there's inspiring things going on in Chicago right now where regular people are standing up, protecting their neighbors. So we need to make sure that we are all prepared to do the same here.
Got it. I wanted to make sure I asked the same question of you, Mr. Harrell. We've seen National Guard troops activated by the Trump administration in other cities. How would Seattle respond with you as mayor? And it sounded like there was a question within it about CCTV too expanding.
Number one, we're leading the way with our fight. And I want to thank organizations like you and Indivisible here in West Seattle for helping us. We've issued several executive orders. Probably the two most powerful were yesterday. Number one, we're prohibiting masks from ICE raids. We're prohibiting city property from being used for staging and for ICE enforcement. We're pulling together all the community-based organizations, all of whom stood with me yesterday to say that I've increased my Office of Immigrant and Refugee budget by 70% to give folks that are impacted legal services and assistance and workforce development and answers to what they should do if their mom and dad doesn't come home. We are loud. We also, because we want to be loud and organized and practice our First Amendment rights, we also are making sure that you know what to do while we protest together, because I don't want to put any of you in harm's way. So we will continue to teach and educate and work with communities when we fight this kind of nonsense. I talked to Mayor Keith Wilson in Portland many times when they started to talk about federalizing National Guards. Number one, as an attorney, I have Bob Ferguson, Attorney General Nick Brown, both of whom support my reelection, as does Senator Cantwell and others, and Congressman Adam Smith. We are united. And they look to me for leadership. For me, it's personal because my mother was interned by an executive order, 9066, that put her in a concentration camp. So I will wake up every day to fight for you and fight for the values we have here in Seattle.
Thank you very much for that. Our next question. With light rail headed for West Seattle, we will see the displacement of up to 70 small businesses, from restaurants and banks to healthcare and childcare. While we recognize that this is a sound transit project, What financial and technical assistance will the city make available to help businesses survive displacement? Mr. Harrell, you're first up.
That was a rough transition from Trump to light rail, by the way.
You got to do it
Caught up
sometime.
in my emotions.
That's the way transit works.
Okay.
Yeah. And it gets you from one place to the other.
You got me from one to the other.
Yeah.
I'll come back to what we did. We're going to do here what we tried to do and did successfully on Rainier Valley. So we were able to negotiate a $50 million fund from Sound Transit, King County, and the City of Seattle for mitigation for families and businesses impacted. And I incorporated that group. I served as the executive director of that group, the Rainier Valley Community Development Fund, and I'm looking at their expertise. It's a great success story. So I need their expertise here in West Seattle to talk to the small businesses impacted, the families and the homes impacted, to make sure that the vision moving forward is that, and number one, we're gonna have a lot of discussions here. I sit on the System Expansion Board and the Executive Committee about what this should look like in West Seattle, working with your communities. So at the end of the day, we have to give you resources, and that's why I mentioned the Capital Access Program. I mentioned the Community Business Ownership Program. These are and a $20 million investment for JP Morgan Chase. So I have to rally up the troops to make sure we're bringing funds and resources to you, but we have to also fight to keep light rail here. Some people don't want light rail here, but the voters voted for it, and I want light rail here and in Ballard because I think you deserve it, and it's going to be a great enhancement for the long run for your children and your grandchildren.
Ms. Wilson, the question was about Sound Transit coming in, businesses being displaced. What financial and technical assistance would the city make available, if you were mayor, to help businesses survive that displacement?
Yeah, and I was glad to see that the legislature passed a bill in this last session expanding the amount of displacement assistance that businesses can get from, I believe, $50,000 to $200,000. So that's good, and I know that West Seattle businesses were very active in advocating for that legislation, so thank you and good job. I think the city should absolutely be making sure that we're using the capabilities that we have through the Office of Economic Development and other departments to assist small businesses that are having to relocate, helping with siting, making sure that permitting and all of those processes go as swiftly and seamlessly as possible. Absolutely, and partnering with community lending institutions like the Rainier Valley Development Fund, we need to make sure that our businesses are being made whole. I also think there's some, this is probably too complex for this amount of time, but some interesting trade-offs when we think about how fast we're doing the construction, and there's kind of the rip the Band-Aid off approach where you're doing as much construction as fast as possible and maybe requiring more businesses to actually relocate versus trying to let businesses hold on and kind of mitigate the impacts and have shorter construction hours, but that can also lead to basically slow death. So I think there's kind of a conversation to be had there around those trade-offs and making sure that we're getting the best outcomes.
Thank you very much. Our next question, I'll start with you, Ms. Wilson. Seattle voters approved a renewal of the city's transportation levy in 2024, the most expensive in our city's history. Between the impending light rail construction and many of the recent memories about the extended West Seattle Bridge closure, traffic and connectivity remain top community concerns. With that in mind, what does success look like to you at the end of that levy?
Great. Seattle viewers, you're obviously a TV man.
Yeah, it happens sometimes. Yep.
I guess the obvious measure of success for the levy is projects delivered on time and on budget. And we don't have a great track record with that, but we can improve. I'll say one thing that I'm very aware of from, I live on Capitol Hill, and we had the G line go in recently, which is awesome in so many ways, but talking with business owners along the G line and residents along the G line, there were a lot of issues with the construction of that project and the kind of outreach that was done and the kind of communication that was done. For example, I've had people tell me both about that project and other SDOT projects that there will be a planned part of the construction done, and SDOT will come and say, well, we're going to be here for a week, so you're going to need to plan around, this sidewalk being unusable from this date to this date, and they'll make this whole plan and be like, okay, and then SDOT comes at the last minute and is like, oh, no, it's actually the following week, right? So that's really unacceptable. We need to get better at how we are communicating to stakeholders and making sure that they are able to make plans that mitigate the effects on their businesses. So that's something that I will pay a lot of attention to as we're thinking about the execution of the levy here in West Seattle.
Mr. Harrell, the question was about what does success look like to you at the end of the transportation levy that voters approved last year in 2024?
Well, I know it failure looks like, and that is all of the inconveniences you had to have when the West Seattle Bridge was down. And I will tell you that we're going to circulate a letter with you on all the work I had to do to look at the labor disputes and get all the parties to the table personally to have that from not happening again. So what success looks like is we're a city of 134 bridges. And you should know that. We put in the levy 221 million. That's about 34 million per year to make sure that doesn't happen again. What success looks like again is 403 million in where trucks are damaging our roads, but making sure that trucks and other modes of transportation, such as cars and transit and buses and bikes, can get along. What I try to do is calm the discussion down in transportation. Cars fighting with bikes and fighting with transit, and calm it down. And if you look at even last year, for the first time for many, many, many years, we were able to achieve 0 bike deaths as an example. What success looks like is the 221 million in bridges will keep them in repair. The 193 in sidewalks and crossings and curb ramps will be designed to make it more accessible for you and safe for our children. So what success looks like is this $1.55 billion proposal that I proposed, use political capital on, to achieve our Vision Zero goals. And we've done a great job in implementing that, and I want to thank you for passing that. That's what success looks like.
Thank you. Moving on to our next question. Given the contentious national political landscape, how will you engage Seattle residents and business owners to ensure they feel supported by their government and connected to the decision-making process? Mr. Harrell, you're first up.
Well, at the end of the day, I'm sort of an open book. And if you do, when I told my personal story, you're like, yeah, Harrell, I've heard that like 5 times. Oh, I'm a local person, and I try to get to your businesses, walk your streets, have breakfast out here in West Seattle. At the end of the day, I'm very approachable. This is a tough job, and so what I will do to ensure the trust, that you have to build it, you have to work for it. Many of your businesses I provided legal services to as an attorney. Many of you know me personally. I probably go to every table, and I have at least one friend. We are living in the craziest times with this maniac in office, Trump. He should have us all rightfully anxious because we're living through unprecedented times in terms of the radioactivity in politics. I am not perfect. I am flawed as everyone else in this room. I'm a person of faith. I think I've modeled in our One Seattle model how you build trust. If I make a mistake, I'll say I screwed up. And I give myself permission to make 5 mistakes a day. I already made 1. None of your business what that mistake was. I got 4 more to go. But I love the city and I love what you're trying to do in your small business. So we build trust one relationship at a time. And you look at someone's life story. Know who they are. I came from a humble background. And so I hope that shows in my style of leadership. That's how you build trust. Show vulnerability.
Thank you very much for that. Ms. Wilson, the question was about making sure residents and business owners feel supported by their government and connected to the decision-making process.
Yeah, this question is very personal to me as someone who's been a community organizer for 14 years, right? I started the work that I do back in 2011 because King County Metro was planning to cut bus service countywide by 17%. Many dozens of routes were going to be entirely eliminated, leaving people who depend on public transit for their basic mobility stranded. And this was a surprise announcement that people were not expecting. And bus riders were not feeling heard. So over my career as a community organizer, the heart of that work is engaging people in the civic process, in democracy, in trying to build that collective power where together we are stronger than we are alone. And that's why over the years I'm so proud to be able to welcome someone into an organization who maybe has never thought about how they could influence their elected officials, right? And then they learn to testify at a city council meeting. They learn to attend a meeting with a council member, right? And at the end of that, we win something. Like, that's the most wonderful feeling, right? That empowerment. And so it is very important to me that we are governing in a way that gives people that voice. And I think that the other aspect of this is that people react badly when a decision is handed down from above, right? We've seen this happen with the Crisis Care Center in Capitol Hill. This often happens when permanent supportive housing is located in the neighborhood, right? When you're not engaging people in the right way, it's hard to get that buy-in, that support. And so it is very important to me, it will be very important to me as mayor to make sure that we are doing that outreach, that we are engaging everyone in the decisions that are going to affect their daily lives.
Thank you very much for that. I'm going to move on now, I believe, to our lightning round of questions here. So we're going to shift gears yet again, if I could, with you. I'd like to try to keep these responses to 30 seconds, if we could, just so we can keep the party rolling here. Ms. Wilson, I'm going to start with you. Where would you rather spend a Sunday afternoon, Alki Beach or Pike Place? I'm not saying there's a right or wrong answer here. Just throwing it out there.
This is an easy question because as a public transit enthusiast, I love our water taxis. I love riding the water taxi from downtown to Alki and walking along that beach, so absolutely Alki.
Okay, I feel like you were kind of double dipping there with the Pike Place on the water taxi, but I'll ask that question to Mr. Harrell as well. Where would you rather spend a Sunday afternoon, Alki Beach or Pike Place?
Alki Beach is a gem of this region. I actually learned how to scuba dive in Alki Beach. I got PADI certified on Alki Beach. I complained about the water temperature a little bit. It was cold, but I think Alki Beach is a gem, and that's where I'd love to spend my Sunday afternoon.
Okay, we'll see
And
you
then go
both.
play some games in the arcade, of course, with my grandchildren.
There we go. Okay, we'll see you both for the next polar plunge, I'm sure. Mr. Harrell, I'll start with you. If Seattle had an official mascot, what would it be?
Ooh, that's a good one. I think it.
Yeah, here he goes.
I got 30 seconds.
Yeah.
I got 20, 19. I'm going to go with a made-up mascot that has a husky in it. It's got to be husky-like.
Okay.
So I'm going to go with some kind of dog husky with sort of a mariner flair to it. So we'll come up with a new one that has all of that in it.
Okay, we're feeding that into AI as we speak. So, Ms. Wilson, if Seattle had an official mascot, what would it be?
This is like a character. It's not like the Space Needle.
Yeah,
or
you can
something. It
choose.
be
You can
anything
choose.
want.
Yeah.
Okay. Golly, this is really hard. Well, let's go with the sockeye salmon. I don't know. I mean, I love watching the salmon run up at the Ballard Locks, and I just feel like the salmon is so emblematic of our region and also of the work that we need to do to protect our natural environment.
All right.
Can I do a rebuttal on that one?
Oh, here we go.
I'm just
right.
kidding.
Right. You never know.
I'm just kidding.
Never know with these. All right. Let me start with you, Ms. Wilson, on this one. What is your go-to coffee order to survive the workday?
I'm really boring and just go with like a normal tall latte. And that was partly when I was breastfeeding my daughter. I was like, I need to drink lots of milk. So I'm cooling on the milk now, but yeah.
Okay, got it. Mr. Harrell, your go-to coffee order to survive the day?
See, we have something in common. I'm a simple coffee drinker, just a drip with cream and sugar. I don't fancy it up very much. So that's a boring drink, and I'm going to stick with it. That's what I drink. Drip with cream and sugar.
Boring is fine. We can work with that. All right, Mr. Harrell, I'll start with you. Which Seattle event is your can't-miss event every year?
Wow. That's a good one. Can't miss the event. Probably the opening. It's not a Seattle event, though. I try to go to every opening game for the Huskies. Is that an open? That's not.
That counts.
That counts. Okay, I'm going to go with that. I try to never miss the opening game of the Huskies.
Okay, all right. That's quite all
I could
right.
go with Seafair, Hydros, and all that stuff, but those are political answers. I just try to not miss that first game.
All right, so we're hearing Huskies on that one. Is there an event, Ms. Wilson, that's your can't-miss event every year?
It's not exactly, this is the first thing that popped into my head, which is that this time of year at the Japanese garden in the Arboretum is really beautiful with the colors. And so I have to make sure to visit.
That's an event. It's about March or so. That makes sense to me. Ms. Wilson.
I got to tell you, after I gave that last answer, I'm going to get like 10 people to tell me what I should have said on that, by the way.
Oh, sure.
Set me up on that.
We're here to help. This is what the West Seattle Chamber is all about.
Should have thought of something in West Seattle.
That's all right. That's all right. No, we'll keep it going here. Ms. Wilson, last one to you on the lightning round. If you could name a new ferry, what would you call it? Yeah, we got stumpers here today. I'm not joking. We'll see. What do you think? There's no wrong answers, really. If there's,
This is like questions like this, your mind just goes blank.
yeah.
Let's see. You want to go first, Bruce?
Yeah. Did you have something? Did you have something?
Take as long as you want on this one, Katie.
Yeah.
Take as long as you want. While she's thinking, I still can't come up with anything.
Right.
I got her time and my time.
Okay.
Give her more time.
Okay. Right. Yeah. He's ceding another 30 seconds. What do you got?
I feel like I'm trying to think of someone really remarkable from Seattle's history.
There's a few. Yeah. That's. Yeah.
I feel like the audience.
Yeah. Right.
The what?
Oh, there's.
The sockeye.
Want to
Okay,
go back with
I'm
the
going to
sockeye?
recycle my
Okay.
answer.
All right. I don't know who's going to shout out something to you, Mr. Harrell, but did you have an idea on this one?
I was trying to go something on the Native American route.
Yeah?
And even while Katie was taking time, I came up with nothing. For some strange reason, I keep wanting to say the Royer, for Charlie Royer.
Oh,
I
yeah.
have no idea, because Katie mentioned the other day, and I was thinking about Charlie Royer. The Royer!
Okay.
How's that?
The SS Royer.
We're honoring
we'll see how that-
Charlie Royer in these debates.
There we go. All right, well, it is time for some closing statements here, which will be 2 minutes long, if we could do that, please. And Ms. Wilson, you're going first.
Okay. So I have not spent my career aspiring to hold elected office. I'm an outsider, but I'm an outsider who has an insider's experience of City Hall. I've been at the table when legislation's hashed out, when programs are designed, and when policies are implemented. I've seen how City Hall works, and too often how it fails to work for the people of this city. At its core, the job of the mayor is about leadership. It's about assembling a team of people with experience, competence, and integrity. It's about keeping that team oriented and motivated around a common vision for our city's future and developing that vision in collaboration with the public. Assembling and leading teams to accomplish big things is exactly what I've spent my career doing. And I think the endorsements I've earned in the course of this campaign reflect the strength of that experience and the vision that we're articulating for the future of Seattle. I'm proud to have the endorsement of Protect 17, the largest union of city employees, of MLK Labor, of all the Democratic organizations in Seattle and the King County Democrats, and most importantly, 51% of Seattle primary voters. I believe that politics is about building relationships and finding common ground, and we don't need to agree on everything in order to be able to make progress together. That is the spirit that I intend to bring into the mayor's office next January, and I would be honored to have your support in getting there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If you wouldn't mind, we'll keep it to 2 minutes once again. Mr. Harrell, you can wrap us up.
Yeah, thank you. So many of you know me, and as your mayor, I've tried to lead this city with clear values based on my personal life, and that would be to lead with honesty and integrity, kindness and strength. My politics are very simple. I want our children to be able to afford living here. I want them to be safe. And I want them to have an opportunity that I had to thrive, to be whoever and whatever they want to be. If we're going to be honest, there's a lot of work still to do. You don't ever hear me say, let's take a victory lap. Now, the other night at a debate, my opponent said, it was never my intent to run for public office. I think it shows that, in all due respect to my opponent, she did not prepare for this moment, and I've tried to prepare a lifetime during these very challenging times. Fact is, my opponent has never hired an employee, to our
That's not
knowledge.
true, by the way. You keep saying that,
Okay.
but that's not true.
All right. She's never balanced a budget. Her nonprofit ran in a hole, $21,000, $38,000, $46,000. The fact is we have an $8.5 billion budget. Those are just the facts. So we think people like President Trump will walk all over that kind of inexperience. During troubled and threatening times, experience matters. It's as simple as that. You have a clear choice, one who will continue to invest in affordable housing or one who has no housing experience at all, has not done the work. One who will rebuild this public safety system and one who just a couple of years ago argued vehemently to defund it. It's in the writing. And when asked about that, my opponent said, I did not say that. But even yesterday, it was admitted that my opponent said that. I've been endorsed by Bob Ferguson, Governors Inslee, Gregoire, and Locke, Nick Brown, Senator Cantwell, Congressman Jayapal Strickland. Democrats throughout this country have endorsed me because they know fighting Trump experience matters. I ask you for another 4 years. Humbly, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and I wanted to make sure there were a few broadsides that were launched there. I know you have one rebuttal left. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, it's simply not true that I've never hired an employee. I've hired plenty of employees, and it's simply not true that I've never balanced a budget.
Okay. Well,
Can you clarify that? Several employees, what employees did she hire?
is there something that you'd like to go on with there, or I want to make sure we...
Just establishing that a falsehood was said.
Okay.
She's counting herself.
It sounds like there's a further discussion
How
and
many
another
employees
debate.
did she hire? Is she going to refute the? We have her ProPublica last 3 years that she's ran, and it says 0 paid employees every single year, year after year after year.
I'll leave it be with 30 seconds.
Look up ProPublica Transit
Okay.
Riders Union. That's
Okay.
all I'm saying.
Last,
Look it up.
Last rebuttal. You have one left if you wanted to say something. Okay. All right. Well, we end it with a flourish here. Can we give a big round of applause to both of our candidates here? Thank you, Mr. Harrell, and thank you, Ms. Gold.